Hello, it's Miss Anderson again, and I'm going to guide you through video part 4 of our essay bootcamp series. In this video, we're talking about unpacking a topic before we begin writing. This is an essential step in preparing to develop a thesis statement. What you'll need for this assignment is any notes that you took from video 3 about essay anatomy. So that might include your anatomy of an essay skeleton or notes that you took on loose leaf. You should also have your assignment sheet with the topic that your teacher has asked you to write an essay on. This should be posted on D2L. And have a writing stick ready. In this video, our goals are to review what analytical writing prompts look like in ELA-1 and -2. To learn some strategies for unpacking a writing prompt or topic, regardless of what type of assignment you're writing. And then to give an overview of the next steps in Essay Bootcamp. So before we start unpacking our topics, let's review what an ELA-1 and -2 analytical writing prompt looks like. In ELA-1, teachers often give the CART, or Critical Analytical Response to Text, writing prompt to students because this is what they'll see on their diploma in grade 12. Notice that in this assignment, it asks you to discuss the ideas developed by the text creator in your chosen text. What that means is you are expected to choose a text that you studied in class and consider how it demonstrates an idea about the assigned topic. In this case, the topic is the human need to reconcile the uncertainties of the past with a new or present situation. Now let's take a look at an ELA-2 writing prompt. -2 students are often given the LitX, or literary exploration essay, to demonstrate their analytical writing skills. Again, this is a task that shows up on the diploma when they reach grade 12. Notice that the prompt begins with, "What is your opinion of the idea that?" In this case, students are being asked to consider the extent to which they agree or disagree with the prompt based on what they read in a text. You must discuss a character from a text that you studied during class and consider what it says about this topic. So even though the prompt begins with, "What is your opinion of the idea?" you can't just choose the first opinion that comes to your mind. You need to develop an opinion around what a character taught you based on studying a source in class. You should also connect your own knowledge or experience by comparing or contrasting it to the experience or ideas developed from the text. This might sound like a lot, but when we begin unpacking the prompt and developing a thesis, it will become a bit more clear. So if you're having trouble grasping what a -1 or -2 writing prompt is at this time, don't panic. Let's look at some strategies for unpacking a writing topic, regardless of whether it's a language, arts, science, history, or other type of writing prompt. What I mean by unpacking the topic is taking a closer look to identify key phrases, using synonyms and antonyms to decode important vocabulary, watching for specifying words like and, or, individuals, society, because these words require a specific approach to the topic. You should also try and turn the writing prompt into a question that you could answer through your thesis statement. Lastly, you should brainstorm connections between your chosen text and the topic before you even consider developing a thesis. So let's return to the CART, or CRT topic assigned to 30-1 students in my previous example. Discuss the ideas developed by the text creator in your chosen text about the human need to reconcile the uncertainties of the past with a new or present situation. This is a really dense topic, so by breaking it into smaller chunks, we're able to consider individually what each chunk is asking of us, and then consider holistically what those chunks mean together. In this case, I chose to begin with vocabulary. I highlighted reconcile and uncertainties in red because these words are significant and they're also complex. So I started with reconcile, and at first I had to consider how it fits into the sentence. Is it a verb? Is it a noun? Is it an adjective? And I can tell in this case that reconcile is being used as a verb. So I went online, and as you can see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, I recorded definitions that I found on thesaurus.com. You could use any thesaurus or dictionary to do this. As a verb, reconcile also means to resolve, rectify, settle, appease, bring to agreement, or conform. I used the same process to decode uncertainties. That's a word that I'm already familiar with, but by looking at some synonyms and antonyms, I can expand what I understand about that word and consider other connections later on when I'm looking at my text. So in this case, I looked up uncertainties as a plural noun, and other words that mean similar things include fears, failures, insecurities, mysteries, ambiguities, doubts, confusions, and resentment. I might not have considered insecurities or resentment when I first looked at the word uncertainties, so going through this process was helpful for me to expand the possibilities. Next, I highlighted important phrases in the prompt using yellow. First, I highlighted human need. Human need tells me that the prompt is asking me to consider this desire to reconcile something as essential to human beings, that it's part of the human condition and that most, if not all, people will feel compelled to do this at some point in their lives. Next, I highlighted of the past in yellow. Of the past tells me that I need to focus on something specifically in the past that caused uncertainty for an individual or society. So something that has stayed with that person or society, something that haunts them or causes them to feel uncertain or insecure. Lastly, I highlighted with a new or present situation. With a new or present situation tells me that I can focus on a new, as in a situation that just arose, or a present, as in a situation that currently is happening, that allows or maybe even forces an individual or society to reconcile a past uncertainty. Lastly, I considered the specifying words. So in this case, or is highlighted in blue because or tells me that I can focus on a new situation or a present situation, but I don't have to address both. After I've looked at all the individual chunks in the prompt and considered what they mean, I can then consider what they mean holistically. So how do they come together to form a question that I need to answer in my writing? There isn't one right way to turn your writing prompt into a question. In fact, some students don't even like doing this step because they feel like it narrows their focus. I find it helpful to understand that a writing prompt is leading you towards a question because when we think about the very essence of a thesis, the thesis is your attempt or your argument in response to an inquiry or question that you've posed. So while you might not write your thesis directly as an answer to the question, you have to understand that that's what you're doing with your thesis. You're trying to answer a question. In this case, I've demonstrated two possible ways I might turn the writing prompt for the ELA 30-1 topic into questions. On the left, I've chosen to focus on an individual. How does an individual demonstrate the human need to reconcile uncertainties of the past with a new or present situation? I see a typo there. I'll give 5 points to the first student that emails me and tells me what it is. On the right-hand side, I expanded my question to address either individuals or societies. Why is it essential for individuals or societies to reconcile uncertainties of their past through a new or present situation? Either of these questions will lead us to developing a thesis that addresses the topic in a very clear way. It might help to have a bit more practice, so let's try unpacking the -2 topic as well. Even though this is a different topic, and the -2 task is asking writers to do something slightly different, we still use the same process. So this prompt asks, what is your opinion of the idea that individuals need a sense of purpose in their lives? I started again by choosing some of the most important vocabulary in the prompt, and then looking up synonyms and antonyms to unpack it. Well, I already know what the words sense and purpose mean. Again, it helps me to look up synonyms and antonyms because they might expand how I'm considering that word. So I started with sense. Sense is being used as a noun in the sentence. As a noun, sense means awareness, feeling, an impression, or a perception. Next, I looked at purpose. Purpose is also being used as a noun in the sentence. As a noun, purpose can mean a goal, a reason, a purpose, a direction, or an objective. Initially, I might have overlooked the fact that a purpose could include a direction or an objective. So by looking it up, I gave myself some more ways to talk about the topic. Next, I highlighted important phrases. First, I started with need. In this case, need specifies that you must agree or disagree with whether or not having a purpose, a sense of purpose, is a need. Is it essential? I also highlighted in their lives. The phrase in their lives leads me to consider how a sense of purpose exists in someone's life in the first place. Is it given or chosen? Is it forced, discovered, maybe inherited? Considering this phrase, again, expands the way I might consider the topic, rather than just going with my own or my first instinct, which tends to be more superficial. I've now given myself some more complex ideas about it. Maybe I'll focus on how someone is forced to have a sense of purpose in their life, or how someone might inherit a sense of purpose from others and then struggle with it because it's not something they chose. Lastly, I highlighted individuals in blue because in this case it's a specifying word. Individuals indicates that I must consider how the topic affects a person or persons on an individual level. So again, I'm going to take that prompt and attempt to turn it into a question that I can answer through my thesis. On the left-hand side, I've asked, do individuals need a sense of purpose in their lives? Why or why not? On the other side, I used some of the vocabulary that I found when I was looking for sense and purpose. Do individuals need to feel like their lives have purpose? Why or why not? Again, either of these questions would lead us to writing a thesis that directly addresses the topic. And that's our goal. After you've unpacked the topic, you need to brainstorm connections between the text you want to reflect on and the topic. This is a really important step because it helps you avoid developing a thesis based on your first and often superficial instinct of the topic, and then struggling to connect what the text says with what you've already decided is the thesis. It's much more appropriate to work the other way around and consider what the text says about the topic and use that to direct you in developing your thesis. For students that are working on an ELA-1 CART topic, you need to consider how you would use various characters from your text to respond to the prompt. You should also try to list supporting evidence and details that you could provide to back up your ideas. It's also helpful to list any important quotes from the text that connect to the topic, as they might become useful in supporting your ideas. If you're an ELA-2 student working on a LitX, you should consider how you would use various characters to respond to the prompt. You should also consider how you would use personal experience or knowledge to connect with the text and the topic. Lastly, you should consider listing supporting evidence and details that you could use to back up your ideas. That might include details from the text and details from your own personal experience or knowledge. In terms of how to do this brainstorming, there's really no set rule. You might consider creating a mind map or a chart or table. You might consider just listing your ideas in point form or free writing everything that comes to mind and then sorting it out after. Sometimes it's helpful to give yourself a structure for coming up with ideas, like using a cause and effect chart or comparing and contrasting characters or ideas using a Venn diagram. If you're stuck for ideas, look up brainstorming techniques online, as there's an endless supply of ways that you might jog your brain in relation to the text and the topic. Now let's talk about the next steps in Essay Bootcamp. So what's next? Well, you should unpack your topic. If you struggle to follow what I covered in the video, it might be helpful for you to go back to the unpacking section of the video and pause it at each step and work on your own topic as you follow along. Next, you need to brainstorm connections. So return to the annotations and notes that you've taken from the texts you've studied and consider the different ways you might use those texts to respond to the topic. Lastly, go to D2L or Brightspace to share and give your feedback to share your ideas and give feedback to your peers according to the instructions that your teacher posts. Good luck with unpacking, everyone.